Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdettes Newsstand, and tomorrow I have an episode live at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time of The Morning Brew. And my guest on The Morning Brew will be Ram V. So I wanted to do a little video for a little self-promotion, of course. And of course, talk about Ram V, who he is, what he's done. So if you are interested, the link to that live will be in the pinned comment. But let's talk and spotlight a little bit Ram V. Now, Ram is a comic book writer from Mumbai, India, and is currently writing many amazing titles. And don't worry, I will geek out about them at the end, including the best ongoing at DC Comics, in my opinion, Catwoman, and also another amazing title, Swamp Thing. But Ram V, at a very young age of 13, wrote a 40K unpublished word story, but decided against it as a career as a writer and decided to become a chemical engineer. It's amazing to me how when you get to know these writers as people, how educated or overeducated almost for the jobs they actually are. But Ram was still fascinated with the medium of comics, and then decided to write his own comic, Aghori, which translates to holy cow. Basically a John Constantine meets Indian mythology kind of book, followed up by Black Mumba, which is where really Ram started to get the attention of the big names in comics. Now, in 2013, Ram moved to UK and started studying creative writing at the City University of London, which is where he actually wrote Black Mumba, which was basically a crime noir set of short stories set in Mumbai. Think of the 1940s America crime noir scene in Mumbai. That's the best way to describe it. But at the Thought Bubble conference in 2015, Ram started talking to creatives like Ryan Sullivan, Dan Waters, and Casper Winegard, only to form a creative-minded group called the White Noise Collective. Most of the creatives were pitching to Vault Comics, which inspired Ram to do the same thing that night, actually. And out of that was born the Savage Shores. That pitch was brought to life. So shortly thereafter, Image also published Ram Paradiso, right? For those unfamiliar with Paradiso, it is a post-apocalyptic science fiction adventure where we follow a group of adventurers on their journey through the last surviving city on the planet, with the twist that the city itself is alive and sentient. The journey kind of begins when our protagonist comes to the border of the city with a device known as Numas, which can bring dead technologies to life. Now, after that, there was really no stopping Ram, right? He quickly became one of the hottest writers at both Marvel and DC, not to mention blue and green at Image Comics and Graffiti's Wall. At this point in his career, embarrassingly enough, is where I actually found Ram V. Now, he came to DC Comics in Batman Secret Files #1 and came on my radar. But it was his Justice League Dark where I really fell in love with his work. Not to take away from the work that Tinian did on Justice League Dark or any of those that came before, but it felt like it was a book that I wished had been around for a long time. Then Rand took over for Catwoman, and that's the best ongoing at DC. It is, oh boy, I guess the best way to describe it is an actual independent Catwoman. And we've seen Catwoman a lot of times independent, but we have her own rogues gallery, right? And one of the best written rogues right now on a newer scale is Father Valley. That Catwoman annual, even if you are not reading the ongoing, which is a shame, but the description in the way that Father Valley was born through the Order of St. Dumas, through John Paul Valley, was an absolute amazing way to tie in one side of the lore to the other. I absolutely love it. And then we've seen Ram in Future State. He actually had two different stories. One was Catwoman, think Snowpiercer meets Gotham. I did review this in its entirety, and it was absolutely awesome. The art was beautiful, but the story is what really got you. It was very fast-paced. It almost gave you that, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And you have anxiety in your chest kind of feeling. And then he also did Future State Swamp Thing, which was, in a way, the death of Alec Holland and the birth of a new type Swamp Thing, where we see Obsidian take over, not by his own fault, but we do see the darkness prevail and what happens with that. Now, away from DC, which I will come back to DC, but we have the many deaths of Laila Starr. Death as a mortal is nothing really new in comics, right? But a nasty, resentful death, plotting against humankind just to reclaim her throne in this immortal world. Yeah, that concept goes to Ram V. And it's almost the story of Laila dying over and over again, only to learn a really important lesson about humanity and why humanity is important. Really great read. It is 5 issues. It is finished at this point, and it's definitely worth your time. And then the final title I really want to talk about and kind of geek out about is Swamp Thing. It's a new Swamp Thing. A lot of people were a little standoffish about it. I think most people are when it comes to a legacy type character. You're a little worried, especially when it's being done quite a few times at DC right now. We're seeing it with Batman with Jace Fox. We're seeing Jackson Hyde take over as Aquaman. We're seeing John Kent take over as Superman. So seeing Levi Kamai come on the scene was a little like, are you okay? All right, sure. Now, this is an Indian Swamp Thing, and we learn why just recently, and I don't want to spoil it because it was last week's issue. We learn why Levi is now part of the Green. And this is a true horror tale. From the very first issue, it hooks you with the horror aspects. And if you like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing, you will absolutely feel and see the influence within this book. It is done fantastically. And now I want more. I think there was one kind of filler issue that I wasn't a huge fan of about a dropping of a bomb. It just didn't fit the story, but the rest of it has been fantastic. And now we get to know why Levi is who he is, why he has guilt, why he feels that he really wronged his own personal community. And it's a beautiful tale. So tomorrow morning, I will be having Ram on, and I think it's absolutely worth listening to. Of course I do, right? It's my channel. But even so, even if you're going to skip the live, make sure you check out those titles. Swamp Thing, fantastic. The Many Deaths of Laila Starr. And my absolute favorite from him right now is Catwoman. And my absolute favorite at DC is Catwoman. It is such a great way to bring crime to Catwoman, but to keep her independent of Batman, which I think is where she belongs. I know a lot disagree with me. I like them better separate. It's just my personal opinion that they are better characters when they are away from each other. And speaking of better characters, that is the one to watch out for. So let me know, of course, what you guys think, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.